Well, hey there, and welcome back to Heimler's History. In this video, we're going to look at yet another one of your required Supreme Court cases for the AP government curriculum, namely Brown v. the Board of Education. So if you're ready to get them brain cows milked, well then let's get to it. So as always, let's begin with the facts of the case. What we call Brown versus the Board of Education was actually a series of cases consolidated into one, and all of them had to do with racial segregation in schools. So as the result of Jim Crow laws in the South, many states had separate schools for white children and black children, and this was justified based on the Supreme Court's ruling in another landmark case from 1896 called Plessy v. Ferguson, which established the separate but equal doctrine. What that meant is that the court ruled that racial segregation in public facilities was indeed constitutional as long as the separate facilities were equal. So the case that we're considering, Brown v. the Board of Education, came about because a black family tried to get their daughter enrolled in a white school that was close to their house, but they were denied admission and thus were required to bus their daughter to a much more distant black school. Lower courts heard this case and upheld the precedent set in Plessy, and on appeal the case came before the Supreme Court. So what was the constitutional principle at stake? Well, Brown and the other advocates argued that racial segregation in schools was a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The lawyer for Brown, Thurgood Marshall, argued using new findings in social science about racism, saying that even if separate facilities were equal in terms of funding, etc., the very fact of separation was inherently equal. To separate black children from white children, Marshall argued, did damage to the psyche of black children and instilled in them an inferiority that was not easily shed. So in light of that, what was the decision? Well, as I've told you in other videos, it is a rare thing for the Supreme Court to overturn existing precedent, but in this case, by unanimous decision, that is exactly what they did. The court agreed that separate facilities violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, thus overturning the precedent set in Plessy v. Ferguson. In his written opinion, Chief Justice Earl Warren said this: "To separate black children from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal." Okay, now why does this case matter? Well, it matters first of all because it was a massive judicial victory for the burgeoning civil rights movement. The movement, which really began picking up steam in the 1950s, sought all kinds of legislative and judicial acts which would acknowledge the equality of black and white Americans, and the Brown case was a massive step in that direction. However, as you can probably imagine, many of the southern states for whom school segregation was the norm resisted integration mightily. Unfortunately, these states were given some license to do so because of the vague wording of the Supreme Court's decision. The court ordered that schools be integrated with, quote, all deliberate speed. And while we understand exactly what they meant by that, like do it now, Southerners found just enough latitude in that phrase to stall. All right, let's go. Let's get those schools integrated now. Well, when it comes to speed, we would like to obey the dictates of the Supreme Court and be very deliberate about it. So y'all let us alone while we go put some real time into figuring out how fast we can rightly go. Anyway, while the Brown decision was in fact a great victory on paper, it was quite a while before schools were integrated, but that's a video for another time. Okay, that's what you need to know about Brown v. the Board of Education. I've got videos right here on all the other required cases if you need them. If you need help getting an A in your class and a 5 on your exam in May, then click right here and get a review packet and all your dreams will come true. And finally, if this video helped you and you want me to keep making them, then by all means subscribe and I shall oblige. Heimler out.